exiting the Dojaverse, and you are entering into Crazy Town. Population 8 billion.
Dun dun dun. You have reached the point of no return. If you are here to learn. Dun dun dun. Welcome to another episode of what's that called? We're on episode 5, I think. We survived to episode 5. Miracles do happen, everybody. And we are going to get into it with some interesting subjects today. About some, we kind of touched on it on the last show. We're going to talk about a couple of interesting laboratories, military bases, or whatever we want to call them, because we don't know. There's many names, but it's going to be pretty wild. But before we get into that, we want to get into some current events. And
Which
again,
is no longer relevant, honestly. So as of 2 hours ago, so the port strikers went on strike, over tens of thousands of them, all the way from New York to Texas. This was the subject we wanted to talk about in the beginning, and I was going to say how ironic it's happening during an election, but the thing is that they have now ended the strike. They're suspending the strike that's involving over 47,000 port workers who are part of the International Longshoremen's Association. It impacted 36 ports across the United States, primarily along the East Coast down to the Gulf of Mexico. Now,
they said that it was only going to be suspended till
January 15th. Yep.
Yeah.
But that's to allow for renegotiations because, mind you, they just opened up 2 hours ago. So from Tuesday until 2 hours ago, they've not been loading or unloading any ships at any ports.
They better hurry up. I need my Temu shit, man. I know that's...
So,
am I Sheen? Am I...
So I really guess that's irrelevant. I thought it was going to be a bigger story, but the fact that it's saying, and this was reported 37 minutes ago on CNBC that I'm talking about, where they're saying that the strike ended.
But I mean, also, like, my daughter and like a couple of my kids, and people are noticing like the shelves were actually getting emptied. And I think, like, when it started with the COVID thing, I worked at Walmart at the time, and I noticed like how bad the shelves and the merch was slimming down. But I think they just kind of test the waters to see, like, that. I mean, they can hurt us really bad with our supplies, like, like, expect the food supply with or imports, like, like so much is imported in, and it's kind of wild, like. I think they just kind of test the waters on these type of things, like.
So to be honest, you have about a month. Stores can provide services and stock for about a month before they start running out, before being replenished. So if this had been a true issue going on, it more than likely, from the time that this had initially started and you weren't receiving shipments anymore, it would probably be about a month before the stores would start to get pretty slimmed down. Um, it's not a long time, but at least you have a little bit of time to try to stock up and run around and go to different places. But I was just talking to
Just
Brandon earlier, and he said that people are already freaking out in Fort Morgan. And shout out Fort Morgan to Americana Custom Tattoos, JJ and freaking Ashley and Martin and all you guys
what is
down
that?
there, Jesse.
Is that where you got some of your work done or what?
This one and my abs I got done down there,
Yeah.
and I had a few others that I've had covered up since, but these two are the most recent ones. And then I'm trying to get my daughter in for an appointment to get her tattoo done for her 18th birthday. She's gonna get one. But
I got this one right here done here in my town, the Zia symbol
oh, dope. Yeah, the New
with the
Mexico.
coyote and stuff. Yeah. And then the Cocopelli.
Oh
And
yeah,
then I got the Cocopelli, but I didn't realize the whole legend behind it. It was kind of funny. Like he was like a mischievous god, and he would seduce women with his magical flute. And I said,
like
"Hey,
Loki.
yeah." I was like, "That's right up my alley." I try to be a musical god too, and seduce them women with my magical flute.
No, but Brandon said in Morgan they're freaking out and they're buying up all the toilet paper and shit like they did during COVID.
I was literally just gonna say, please don't buy the toilet paper.
So looks like
Hey,
that's
you
what
know
people
what?
are going to first, stockpile it.
Yeah, yeah.
But
It
I
was
am
wild.
glad.
Like I was saying with during the COVID, it would be crazy. Like we would literally stock that shit and the doors would open at 6 and they'd be gone like in like 30 minutes. Like everybody just go, Clorox wipes, Lysol, toilet paper, just like boom, hit those two aisles. It was wild, man. Like, and then the convenient thing about one thing I did learn, and for people that are looking for work, I learned that when the apocalypse happens and the whole world shuts down, Walmart will still be open and they will still be going and they'll still be selling everything. Because I was driving in Denver during COVID and there was no cars. It was like the apocalypse. But I think what was it? Albertsons too was open. It was like two.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
So
was like,
oh yeah, back when Albertsons was open. But it's funny you mentioned that because that
what? There's
ties
no more
into our
Albertsons?
yeah, it's closed, dude. They went out of business.
What?
Yeah,
Dude,
dude,
that's
there's
like
no
one of my
more.
that's
Not
like
here
my favorite
anyways.
groceries. That was like my favorite grocery store.
So it's funny you bring that up. And the reason why I say that is because this ties into our next episode, which we're going to get deeper into. But Walmart allegedly is tied to the FEMA camps and the
Oh,
dumps, which is going to be something we want to talk about in the next episode. But I wanted to talk about this right here since you're talking about COVID. Is that did you know that? And I think this was in Taiwan. This woman, she was 45 years old, dude, and she bought. Yeah, it was in Taiwan. She bought alcohol, like drinking liquors, and filled up a bathtub with it because she thought that by soaking in the alcohols that she would kill any SARS that got on her the surface of her skin. And she was found the next morning, dude, and she had died and her alcohol blood level was what is it? Ooh,
what
so
the hell?
40.5%. The fluid in the bathtub was found to contain 40.5% of ethanol, and her blood alcohol concentration was 1,350 milligrams, or 1.35%. A
Jeez.
BAC near 400 milligrams can be lethal. So she freaking basically 3 times the amount that would be lethal is what was found in her system just from sitting in the bathtub. And they said, and since the bathtub was too small to fit her whole body, her head was above the fluid, and she was not likely to have drank that large amount of alcohol. So some of the vapors were inhaled, which could have accelerated her intoxication. But they're thinking that it's more than likely it absorbed into the skin.
Oh, that's wild. Hey, I was just thinking when he said that. Remember when Trump was on live, the live thing? He's talking about injecting bleach.
So funny
uh,
thing is that you talked about something just a second ago, and this brings us into our subject actually. You talked about them controlling our food. So I want to get into how this started. So the whole Plum Island thing that we're going to get into in this discussion today is that originally they were saying they were trying to create a way to biologically attack an enemy's food source. Okay, so by trying to weaponize ticks in the beginning, but hold on, where is it? I was trying to look up something else. It's called
there's a
zoo something. Zoo um anyways, it's a science of two diseases that well, one disease that can affect both animal and humans. So in this condition, this is how you get away. And there's no way that the CDC can police this stuff. So you say that you're experimenting on types of viruses or diseases that can infect humans from animals. And when you say that, now you have to have both human and animal subjects to test on. And when you do this type, and I'm trying to look that up right now, but when you do this, it's very it's because of bats. Something happened with bats. Hold on, that has
what COVID?
it might well no, it was something to do with the bats. I can't remember what they were saying in this documentary, but because of it, that's why they started doing this test. But they say that's a slippery slope because when you start doing these type of tests, then like I said, how do you police what kinds of tests that they're doing? Because you can already get away with having human and animal experimentations by doing this type of science.
Well, yeah, and then like they they engineer it to come from animal to human and stuff, and it's like, man, that's kind of dangerous right there. You guys are playing around, and yeah, and
Yeah.
like you said, how could they regulate that?
So I'm trying to look it up. Sorry, it took me a second because I'm trying to think and type at the same time, um, so I could look it up.
I'm trying to fix my tripod.
And I have a few things brought up actually that go into our subject. But first, before we get into this tick thing,
Hey,
zoonotic diseases. Okay, that's what it's called. Zoonotic diseases. So zoonotic diseases are oh, shit. Come on, load. That's loading. Zoonotic diseases are diseases that are transmitted from animals to humans. It's a zoonosis or zoonotic disease or zoonosis plural is an infectious disease that is transmitted between species from animals to humans or from humans to animals. So the most dangerous and one of the most contagious is hand, foot, and mouth disease, which is something that happened and it has leaked from Plum Island a couple times. So just to give you an example of what it would cause,
hey, I was thinking that I was checking that Plum Island on the map. I was thinking it was kind of like farther away from land, but I was like, it's
no, it's
like
over
right in the
there by New
middle of
York.
land. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
by New York.
like, with brown tons of people.
So I want to look this up because it happened in the UK, and I think it was in the 80s, maybe it was the 70s. I want to try to see when it happened. Oh, it was in 2001. Damn. Okay, son of a bitch. So the outbreak lasted 221 days, and because of it, they had to cull or kill 6.45 million animals. That was cows, pigs, and sheep. Um, and it said that they lost over $10 billion. And because when you have that, it's so bad that every country will boycott buying meat from your country until you can prove you no longer have it. So, I mean, that's a bad deal. So, anyways, according to this legend here with the Plum Island, it's saying that there's the rumor that wait, hold on. I wonder. Oh yeah, here it is. The tick bioweapons. So with
Ugh.
this Lyme
That they
investigation,
that they
Lyme disease.
learned from the Yahtzees.
Yeah, so through Operation Paperclip, that's who I'm trying to find out. So we actually brought two Yahtzees over, and all of this shit's pretty horrible.
And then they were experimenting on humans. Ugh.
There's
Dude,
nothing in
imagine
his
like
name.
those. Imagine like walking the hallways to one of those places. Oh man, you'd see some wild stuff.
So here we go. So anyways, they were. Oh yeah, it said that what are they called? The Lone Star ticks. So the Lone Star ticks
Oh,
are different than other ticks, and they
they're like
gather in
aggressive,
clusters. Yeah, and they hunt. So instead of hanging
and
on a
they
blade of
could smell.
grass and wait.
Dude, they could smell the ammonia in in your sweat. That's
Yeah.
wild.
And
And they could bite like
so
numerous times.
yeah, and instead of just once like a normal tick, and they carry and spread many diseases. But it said that they released over 300,000 of these things in the wild on Plum Island. Okay. Now, rumor has it that these things made it to land somehow. Either a deer or something swam to land, whatever may have happened. One scientist, and I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he was talking about when he wrote about it, when they were investigating the East Coast down through New Jersey and the Boston area. He said that every single house they inspected had evidence of Lone Star tick clusters or
Well, there was
spores
a
or eggs, and he said that it's almost as if the entire East Coast is infected.
they had a map on that video too. Yeah, and it's like almost all the way. I mean, it's all the way to the West Coast, but not as bad as it is like spread it out on the East Coast with those ticks.
So, according to this legend, anyways, that not only that happened, after this Lyme disease thing, did you know that Hillary Clinton is actually, she was a senator at the time who wrote, or a congresswoman, I believe, who wrote into the government because Plum Island is under the control of the Agricultural Something Society, and even though they have control over it, it's still basically policed by national security. So Homeland Security, you can't, even though, let's say, the Secretary of Agriculture says you can come visit the island, you can't visit without the approval of Homeland Security. But it's said to be an agricultural thing because you're testing see if diseases can transmit to humans through our food. So rumor has it, allegedly, that when they were devising this way of creating ticks as a bioweapon, that you were going to infect an enemy's food, and literally overnight, you could cause them to starve. And a starving army is an easy army to beat. Thing is that the oh yeah, that's what I wanted to look up. The African swine fever, okay, which broke out in Cuba, and Castro was in power at the time, and they blamed it on the U.S. at the time, and there was an investigation done because at the time nobody had any actual virus of it for study on the western hemisphere of the world, except for the people at Plum Island. And there was a person who talked with the media who said that they smuggled it from Plum Island, that they were told to give it to Castro's anti the hell were they detractors or whatever, and when they got to Cuba, and so Cuba almost starved to death over this, with this whole African swine fever infecting the swine. And they were saying that if the scientist who we brought over, who specialized in also African swine fever and turning it into a bioweapon, basically. He also worked at Plum Island. And at the time, he said there was no vaccine in the world for African swine fever, and that if it got into the swines here in America in the United States, that it would infect it within a short amount of time, the entire U.S. So that should be a scary thing. The thing is, though, through the investigations, there was this day. It was the day that they were slaughtering everything on the island. I think it's when the hand, foot, and mouth got out for the second time, so they had to kill everything on the island.
Hey, did you
And
see that they said that they would be eating like the meat and stuff?
yeah, that's what I'm saying. So that it's
Uh,
FDA certified meat, you know,
yeah, that's so
for
nasty.
virus.
Oh no, I don't want thumbs up for that.
Oh man, but that's just
Uh,
the tip of the iceberg as far as what other experimentations that they've done to us. Like
so do you think it would have to, right? If you ate virus meat, it would have to contaminate you too, right? You would think.
yeah. So we brought over Eric Traub is one of the guys. What he's special he came from Rhine Island. So the Germans first were doing this stuff, the Yazis, on Rhine Island, okay? Or Rame Island, I think is how it's pronounced, actually. They were doing some biological studies and warfare stuff there. And so during Operation Paperclip, America would take Yazis and we would ask them to join us and work for us and give us their knowledge. In exchange, we would pardon them for their war crimes. Now, in Russia, they didn't ask. You're basically forced. And if I had to imagine, you're tortured if you refuse to, and probably even worse. So, anyways, Eric Traub was taken
Well,
by the Russians, and then
they
we,
probably took you. They probably took those people willingly or unwillingly. You know what I mean?
yeah, and so we took him, and after a year of getting him out of there, he was delivered to the U.S., where he then went to go work um, at Plum Island. So, then he was brought to the United States in 1949 under the auspices of the United States government program Operation Paperclip, meant to exploit scientific knowledge in Germany and deny it to the Soviet Union. From 1949 to 1953, he was associated with the Naval Medical Research Institute in Bethesda, Maryland. Okay. So what he did is, what did he do? I think this is the guy. Health research.
That's kind of wild, huh? The experiments just go on and on and on that they were doing over there in Germany and with the Yazis. With
Yeah. So, okay, when I
hey, where
said
do you
that this
think?
is only one of many instances where they do stuff like this,
Where
I wanted to talk.
where do you think they learned this from? Think it's aliens?
Be honest, it could be anything. The biological warfare thing. You know, I it's just like watching the murder mysteries. Okay, people that like true crime and stuff. When you learn about that, you're just learning about an individual who's going after individuals and the reasons and the whys. This kind of stuff that we're talking about here, this is the same thing, but on a mass scale of people doing the same thing, but not just one victim, many victims. So, 1950, a few things happened. So they did Operation Sea Spray, and the government has admitted to some of these instances. So imagine
Oh,
if
you're
these
talking
are
about
instances they've admitted to. These are things that
are you
that
talking about San Francisco?
yeah, where they sprayed the hell
Dude,
was
that's
it?
crazy, huh?
6 days of
Dude, and
spraying.
they recently did that again.
Um,
They sprayed some kind of weird shit on the shorelines again.
Yes, Serratia marcescens, which lives in the soil or water. It's best known for its ability to produce a bright red pigment. What is it? Oh, no, that's not it. They sprayed samples at 43 sites to track the bacteria spread. And they spread different bacterial spores all over the people of San Francisco. And
Oh man.
hundreds, if not millions of people, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, had contracted these things. So if they're not going to test it on their civilians, also in 1950, through a um, Philadelphia experiment through the college. I can't remember what college did it, but they gave 50 or 200 women in prison uh, hepatitis C just to see what it would do. So they did it to the prisoners because they don't have no rights.
Oh man, that's messed up.
But anyways, it wasn't just
I
that.
think they
They
I think they
did
did that. They just bring them into the clinic like, hey, here you're here to get your normal
your
vaccine
shot.
shot. Yeah.
That's not all, dude. They've injected cow blood. They've injected other viruses into uh, prisoners. There's even one instance where they've admitted to that they've injected cancer cells, live cancer cells, into prisoners just to see what the cancer would do unchecked inside of a patient at its full rate to study it. Okay, so like I said, you don't have no rights. So at that point, they do whatever they want. Also, they did the Tuskegee experiment, which is a very dark and black mark on American history, where they went down in somewhere in Alabama and let me see. So when they went down in Alabama, this happened in 1932 and it went on for I think 60, 70 years. And they asked for 600 men, what we need is we're going to give you full health care. And who wouldn't want that full health care? Except for when the government took you. And this is the part that's been stripped from the record. So we're going to say allegedly here. The government allegedly gave these 600 men syphilis. Now, what the reports say when you look them up now is saying that these are 600 men they picked with syphilis. No, they gave it to them. And it has been in the last few decades removed from our history, but it's important to remember history. So they did this to them. And during this time, they knew that syphilis could be contracted through sexual transmission, and they didn't tell these guys. And they told them they were giving them sugar pills and stuff to treat them, told them that we're treating you for bad blood. So more than 40 spouses contracted the disease, 19 children born during this time. But this is only what they're telling you. Okay, 600 men participated in this. 128 of them died from direct results of this test. Um, so think about the things like that our
What
government
do you,
has
what do
definitely
you,
done.
what do you think? Why do you think they do that? To spread it more throughout the people, or to kill more people, or
Of course,
mm,
that's the purpose. And then, well, they say though that if we don't do the biological warfare and we don't study it, then you're at risk of having other countries use it on you. So, and where was it? Right here, Nixon. So President Nixon, he had banned chemical and biological defense policies and programs uh, November 25th, 1969. And over 188 countries signed this document and said they would agree to hold off on doing that stuff. But under suspicion, the U.S. believed that Russia, North Korea, and China were still continuing with these things. So maybe we
well,
secretly did it too. And again, like I said, when you say that it's like a center of disease control, testing for food in humans, you can get away with this because there's no way to police it. And it was a big deal because an investigation was done after the African swine flu in Cuba because after Nixon had passed this, okay, that swine flu took place and that swine fever. And when they were saying that, and that person talked to the newspapers about it, saying that they were the one who transported the virus down there, is that America wasn't supposed to have that virus. Neither was the CIA. So it was a big ass deal that we're being accused of having this virus and taking it to another country and infecting their food source with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Obviously,
Yeah.
the CIA denied it. We couldn't find anything proving that that was the case, that actually happened. So nothing ever came of it. But let's see. So, here, let's see if this one says anything. Oh, no. So, from there, right? Have you ever heard of Lady Al Qaeda?
No.
Okay, her name is Aifa Siddiqui. She was a doctor, and it was said that she was in Afghanistan walking around with they call it a I can't remember what they call it, the jacket, the big ass jacket, a burqa or something like that, or can't remember what it's called, but she was carrying these big jugs and she was asking women all over if they wanted to commit terrorist acts and stuff like that. And when they caught her, because see, the reason why this is important is all of this associated to Plum Island, the people that had interest in Plum Island. So people that have interest in Plum Island should tell you what's actually going on there. So they say that it's a place where they're studying where diseases can contaminate humans or animals and go back and forth. Well, this lady, when they caught her and they took her in with suspicion, she had two giant cylinders under her burqa or whatever, and they were full of weapons grade. Is it? Let me see.
What the heck? That's
Trying to see
wild,
where
though.
it says all of this stuff. What she was actually carrying, because she got 86 years for this, dude. She was brought here to the extradited to the United States, to where she was charged and given 86 years. Um, Trying to see what it was that they caught her with.
Dang. So she was basically trying to spread something over there.
Yeah, so allegedly she left the U.S. Hold on.
Th- That's pretty wild, though, man. Let us send people. So she was a doctor from Plum Island?
No, she was just a doctor, but they had interest in Plum Island. So,
Oh, okay.
oh, it was in 2008 that she got
Man,
arrested. And
that's pretty recent.
in a
Well,
bag she was
somewhat.
carrying, the police found a number of English and Urdu describing how to make explosives, chemical weapons, Ebola, dirty bombs, and radiological agents, as well as mortality rates of certain weapons and handwritten notes referring mortality rates of certain weapons and handwritten notes referring to a mass casualty attack that listed various U.S. locations and landmarks, including Plum Island Animal Disease Center, the Empire State Building, the Statue of Liberty, Wall Street, the Brooklyn Bridge, and the New York subway system. Okay, so just saying that. Really, why would they want to blow up Plum Island? Why is that one of their attacks? Because it has
Right.
viruses that you shouldn't have anywhere in the world there. And if that stuff gets out to a population, there's tens of millions of people that live within a 100-mile radius of Plum Island.
And then wasn't it that that's the whole reason why that shit popped off over there in Russia and Ukraine is because we have those type of labs over there with the chemical things, and he's like, Putin was like, that's too close getting that shit over here on my borders, and I don't want breakouts like that either.
Well, again, funny story is that Plum Island is due to be shut down, demolitioned, and the island to be sold to private investors for either private investors or government institutions. There's a law trying to pass that doesn't allow the government to sell it except for to another government agency so that someone can take care of the land properly. They were saying when it was bought out by a private organization, the security started to loosen and things weren't as good as they were. And that's why a lot of outbreaks happened and people got infected. Like one time they shipped government grade or weapons grade anthrax to, I can't remember how many facilities, at least 4 facilities that weren't able to handle the type of weapons that they handed them basically. And it's allegedly reported that 62 CDC workers got infected with the anthrax or got exposed to it. And so they're saying that they're going to close the island and move it to $1 billion new advanced facility in, what is it called? Manhattan, Kansas, in the middle of America, where a lot of our food sources come from. Just think about that. When the hand, foot, and mouth disease got out twice on the island, they were able to contain it because it was an island. So now think about that, having this in our backyard.
I know, and it's like, why would you guys even do something like that? Like, go
Well,
put it in Alaska.
there's the Montauk Monster, which we didn't talk about, which looked like a pig that had claws, and these two girls found it on the beach, and they believed they found it in Montauk, New York. Okay, so that's why it ended up being called the Montauk Monster. But Montauk is only a few miles away from Plum Island. And rumor has it that it's an animal that escaped the island and swam to shore. You know, which goes back to that Lyme disease thing, where they were trying to say that the government created Lyme disease because a deer brought chicks over into Lyme. Where was it? Was it Lyme, Connecticut? And it was a weapon that originated in the Plum Island laboratory. But thing about that is that people speculate that the government created Lyme disease, which they didn't create it. It was actually found in the Iceman, the mummy, the Iceman. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but since he had it,
they extracted it from him.
well, possibly. But the thing is that it doesn't matter if they created it or not. Did they weaponize ticks with it and allow that to get into the population? Allegedly, people believe that that is the case. Otzi, or whatever, the Iceman, who's a mummy from a man who lived between 3,350 and 31,005 BC. He was discovered September 19th, 1991. And yeah, so this guy, they're saying he's over a 2,000-year-old mummy that murdered more than 5,000 years ago. Jeez. Yeah, so he was murdered. He has some wounds on his body that show that he was attacked. But either way, he had Lyme disease in his body, so it wasn't like the government created it. But did they weaponize it? Possibly.
We weaponize everything. The government. Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Like a COVID. Allegedly.
Okay, so yeah, that's what that story was about. I remember now. It gets into the Montauk Project from here. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this, because Montauk being right by Plum Island, it's a conspiracy theory that alleges that there were a series of United States government projects conducted at Camp Hero or Montauk Air Force Station in Montauk, New York, for the purpose of developing psychological warfare techniques and exotic research, including time travel. The story of the Montauk Project originated in the Montauk Project series of books by Preston Nichols, which intermixes those stories with stories about the Bulgarian experiment. Um, so Jacques Vallée, a UFO researcher, according to him, the Montauk experiment stories seem to have originated with the highly questionable account of Preston Nichols and Al Biolek, who both claim to have recovered repressed memories of their own involvement. And Preston Nichols claims that he was periodically abducted to continue his participation against his will. And it's
What?
so yeah, do you remember this? I don't know if you've watched that episode before on the Y-Files where he talks about these guys did this time traveling through different points of time. You know,
No,
even
I don't
ending
know
up
if
in.
I don't know if
So
I've seen that one.
this is the Montauk Project, okay? And also all of this tying into Project MK Ultra because thing is that this all inspired Stranger Things, among other things. So let me look this up. So MK Ultra is said to be experiments done on creating sleeper agents. Now the idea is that they do it to children, but I I specifically remember it being something to do more with just doing it to any person that under certain words, lighting, uh, the
Yeah,
way that you feel, you wake
like
up and
hip,
you,
hypnos.
yeah. So
Yeah.
basically, like what the Manchurian Candidate is about. Um, Rumor has it, though, that Charles Manson was an MK Ultra experiment, one of the early CIA experiments.
Yeah, they said that they were training him like when he was in jail and stuff, like like his younger years,
Hmm.
and then that's why he knew that how he could control those people, like to go make them commit murders and stuff, because he knew like hypnos and all of that, MK Ultra and all that stuff. Imagine, dude, that's kind of crazy. Like hypnos, I kind of was looking into it. That's wild to me to like, like to hypnotize somebody and then go make them do. I think that's what all these school shooters and stuff. I think they're under very heavy hypnos and MK Ultra and stuff too. Like,
Funny you mention that because allegedly somebody had talked about it before about how James Holmes and his father they used to volunteer for experiments through was it HARP or DARPA, one or the other,
DARPA.
and they were
Harper's mainly the weather, so it's probably DARPA.
yeah, it was DARPA then. So when he testified, he said he didn't remember buying all of that stuff. Now, I'm not trying to say that he's innocent or anything, but just potentially, allegedly, I mean, let's just say, what if, what if he was a sleeper agent? What if someday he was watching TV or he's walking down the street, he hears a code word or a certain song, and all of a sudden his brain's programmed. So every time at this day, he's going to go sit down, he's going to order weapons little by little. He's going to start to piece together a plan. But because he's a sleeper, okay, he don't remember any of this. So when questioned about it, you cannot implicate the people that caused you to be like that because you don't remember.
Yeah,
It's a
exactly.
type of brainwashing, right? And so
It's
hypothetically,
it's
that
pretty genius when you really think about it. Like, I mean, you just get these people, and then yeah, I mean, and it gets real deeper into like to others, with that, because I wrote about this in the music. Like I said, I learned about it like when they would do like ritual sacrifices, like the people were under heavy hypnosis too, so they're going and they're doing it willingly, like the.
funny thing that you mentioned that, dude, is that I wish I knew his name right now, but I was doing research into him and I seen him. Let me see if I could find him. I don't know how I'd look him up. satanic
That
priest, I guess.
that stuff freaks me out. Like
No, so
hypnosis,
this
and then like
guy,
they or like the
um,
predictive programming. I mean, it all falls kind of under the same umbrella, but like that stuff's wild, bro. There was that other guy too. He
he
was a
tortured
cult.
people though for the CIA, and he talked about
Oh
he ended up
damn, really?
becoming a high priest of the Satanic Church, but he tortured people and he talked about the hypnosis and stuff that they would do to make a person suffer more. And I'm trying to find his name
Oh,
right now.
that's
But yeah,
Jeez, that's a whole nother level.
so that's all I wanted to say about that. But yeah, I mean, it is on a whole nother level. That's just, and it's not showing his name. Not seeing anything. No, they're bringing up
I
like a
wonder how many of those bases do you think there really are? Because Plum Island's kind of like popular now, but I think there's probably a lot of them.
Of course. I mean, there's many of them, like in Atlanta, Georgia. So, did you hear about the story about that girl in Atlanta, Georgia, right? That disease that leaked from that facility or whatever. And what were they doing? They were bungee jumping or whatever, and she fell in the water and she cut her knee on the rocks. Well, then she
Yeah.
started to get all messed up and swollen, and turned out she had this flesh-eating bacteria that shouldn't exist, but it came out of this lab that is one of the labs in Georgia by where she was. This is allegedly. Somehow it
Dang.
escaped, the virus did. And this girl cutting her leg on the water, the bacteria got inside of her. Thing about it is, it's so aggressive and so fast moving. The only thing you can do is end up removing things to frickin' removing limbs to try to salvage because it spread so fast. So
Oh,
she ended up losing both her hands, both her feet, and her entire left leg to end up saving her life. But
I remember that. Yeah, I know what you're talking about now. Hey, ain't that wild, huh? The things could just get on the rock like that and get into your system like that. That's
for those of our listeners out there that care, so they did that special. What was it, Jim Corwin or what the hell was his name? That guy who did that one show after Steve Irwin, but he did the Where Are the Frogs special thing, and frogs became an endangered species because humans have bacteria that live on our skin. You go into nature, you go into their environment, you put your hand on a rock. Well, now a frog jumps on that rock, and that bacteria that lived on your skin is now on that rock, and it gets on the frog and it eats its flesh and it kills them at a rate that they're becoming extinct. Okay, so be mindful
what?
when you go out into nature and be mindful of the things that we also do. And that's why it's such a negative thing to introduce something into an ecosystem that don't belong there, as you could potentially destroy it.
Like trash. uh, hey man, we some polluters.
That there is. Damn, dude, we came off the highway the other day and Lisa was pointing out, she's like, damn, really? All that trash? Dude, it's like somebody dumped a fucking uh, uh, a trash truck's worth of trash right there in front of this gate, right beside the exit to the highway, dude. You're just like, what the fuck, really? All that trash on the
Yeah.
ground? But that's a story for a whole nother subject. And according to them, they shooted it into space. So yeah, think about that one. Because we
Uh,
can only bury so much of it, and you're just burying trash on top of trash and throw layers of dirt on it, and there's only so much of that shit you can do. And really, why are you wasting the earth to do that? Because you're just putting trash in the earth, and shit that grows from it is trash. And only a quarter of this place we can live on, and you're fucking wasting it on trash and the dead. Think about that.
yeah, we should just burn it like the good old days.
And
Hey,
really, I'm not
speaking of,
trying to be disrespectful to the dead or anything like that. I'm just saying that when you only have a quarter of the planet that we can live on and population is getting outrageous, We don't got land to be
Hey,
burying our
but
dead in or dumping
I,
our trash in.
they say that the whole Earth's population can. What was I shared a thing about it that it could fit into L.A. County or something like that. So
Probably could.
I don't know. I don't know if we're like getting overpopulated or not. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. But I think there is
It's
a lot
not
of
that we're
trashy people.
the problem is what they say is that because of the growth of humanity and the people and the energy that we use and all of the things that we use and the fossil fuels and energy sources that we have to pull from, that what we
Oh,
have available to us isn't sustainable at the rate of growth of the human population. So
I get
that's
what you're
where
saying
they
now.
start to say that we're becoming overpopulated now. I get what you're saying that, yeah, there's not as many people as they say there are that would take over the planet. But as far as to continue this way of living, there's too many people to continue with the resources we have available to us unless we find an alternative source of energy
Yeah,
somehow,
and
some
then
way.
like you said, we're just like so like I don't know about other countries because I don't really visit other countries, but I know here in America we're like extremely wasteful too. Like, you know, with trashing and food, like, you know, we're just like we're wasteful people over here.
So in other countries, dude, it's kind of weird sometimes, like in Aruba when we went. The fucking people, if they say, "Would you like me to carry your groceries for you?" and you say yes, they're expecting a tip when they freaking go outside with you. And to fucking take the shopping carts, you got to put a fucking coin in to take the shopping cart, to unlock it, to take it. And then when you put the cart back, the coin pops out and gives you your coin back.
Oh, what the?
Yeah. And
That's
it's different. You know what I mean? And things are different in different places. People freak out. One time we were in Cancun. We're in the store, grocery store. Roaches crawling on the bags. Fucking her cousins right away. And they were like, nah, let's leave. We don't want to shop here. And it's like, well, just buy shit in bags. You know what I mean? You're not in America. It's not the same. I'm just saying, sometimes you have to understand the culture that you're in and the way things are. It's not the same. So, given that, and I'm not saying they have low standards, I'm just saying, you see things that you're not used to. It's not, from what I've heard from people I know that went and volunteered as people to help in Africa. They said when you shop for meat, you want to shop for the meat that has flies on it.
what the.
That's how you know that the meat is fresh. Because if the flies aren't on the meat, that means that meat is old. And if the flies don't want it, you don't want to eat it either.
That's wild, bro.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's pretty wild. But back
We
to we got a little off subject, everybody, but back to this experimental stuff.
so I want to
Hey,
get
so
into
you,
this,
do you
and it's
think
funny. This,
like under the DIA base that they're doing the experiments too?
I do, but I wanted to get into this before we do that because this will also tie into that, and I guess maybe we could talk about them both in the next episode more, since we want to talk about DUMBs,
Wait,
deep
wait,
underground military bases. But I was going to get
we
into
gotta do
Lincoln
the
Park. The
drill moment of the week. uh, hey,
We'll
but
see how long that
on the
lasts.
on the next on the next one, we're gonna let everybody know. But shoot, I almost sneezed. But we're gonna get into the domes deep. Was it deep underground military base?
Bases,
Yeah, yeah.
dumps.
I'm
So
surprised I remembered that. But that's gonna be on the next episode. We're gonna touch a little bit on that right here and there, but we're not. We're gonna get really in depth on that
Well, it's
later
because
because
before
that's
you
just.
brought that up, I wanted to bring up Lincoln Park because funny thing is Friday, some dude stopped me and he was like, "Hey, dude, anyone ever told you that you give off fucking Chester Bennington vibes?" And I was like, "No," but he's like, "I hope you
What's
don't
that?
take it the wrong way." And I was like, "No, that's cool as fuck." He's all, "You know who it is?" I was all, "Yeah, Lincoln Park."
Ah,
Lincoln Park I mean, and then going into a recent thing, I'm hearing that
Hey,
Chester Bennington's mom is trying to sue Lincoln Park or something because they want to bring on this female to sing in his place, but she's saying I don't want her to sing my son's songs or something like that because she's upset the band didn't talk to her about it first. But allegedly, Chester Bennington is the son of John Podesta, one half of the Podesta brothers, behind the Comet Pizzagate scandal. Also, the people under Hillary Clinton, part of her cabinet, and let's just say,
allegedly.
and the Black Eye
Hey,
Club, the Red Shoe Society, all of these allegations. Chester Bennington created Lincoln Park with his bandmates because Lincoln Park allegedly was an MK Ultra base in Canada where they experimented on kids for Project MK Ultra, and they were trying to raise awareness. And allegedly, Chester Bennington was going to release some evidence about child trafficking and sex trafficking that goes on in Hollywood and politics and all the such. And he and three other people, and I've talked about this before on a few podcasts. Chris Cornell,
yeah,
Avicii Tim Berg, and Anthony Bourdain. These four men were supposed to be on this same documentary exposing this stuff. Now you had Anthony Bourdain and Chester Bennington supposedly commit suicide. You had Tim
hey,
Berg and Chris Cornell supposedly die from overdoses of fentanyl, right? So isn't that kind of ironic that these four guys were supposed to come out on this documentary and all of them just disappeared?
yeah, that's pretty ironic. Hey, uh, that's one subject that's kind of scary to kind of mess around with is the children abuse, child abuse, sexual abuse, and trafficking and stuff because like almost everybody that goes against that is mysteriously suicide. Listen, and then like if you listen to the interviews, they said that Chester he was like all still happy. He wasn't suicidal at all. Like he was, and like and if you look at that guy, like man, it looks just like him. Like the Prescott guy. Like it's like what
Or
the
John
hell?
Podesta? Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, that's kind of weird. Like when I first seen it and stuff. And then yeah, and then like the whole Pizzagate thing, and it's like, oh yeah, that's kind of ironic. And then like I said, and then they always like seem to hang themselves. I was talking about this the other day because we had a friend, unique.
Martin.
He hung himself, and I was just like thinking like that's just like a horrible way to like kill yourself, like to commit suicide because you got to sit there and you got to dangle and you're just like cutting off, and that's a rough way to like. I think like if I mean me personally, I would like to OD or so, you know, I'd take some pills or go to sleep, or something like. But like hanging yourself, that's some brutal shit. And then they said that I don't know if it was if it was him, but it was like a gym rope or gym rope like tied to the door. It just the way the angle and everything, it just did not make no sense whatsoever how he could have hung himself from that position. I don't know if it was him though, it might have been someone else. So many of them hang themselves, Jeffrey Epstein. Hey, hey, who's next? Who's on suicide watch in the same jail? He might hang himself. I don't know. Allegedly.
So that goes into what you were talking about with the child trafficking and child abuse and stuff of that nature. So for those who haven't seen, it's a movie that I feel is very powerful, but I hate it. Watch The Sound of Freedom. That movie made me so uncomfortable, so angry, but I get it. I get
Dude,
it's an awareness that people need to have. You need to understand it.
I
I'm glad they went through it. James Caviezel, The Passion of the Christ. They pulled money out of their own pockets to get this movie out because they tried to stop this movie from coming out. But Harsh ass movie. That's all I could say.
So the very beginning of that movie, for those of you that you haven't seen it, it shows like actual camera footage, like from people getting kidnapped, like all over, and and like just that beginning alone, like makes your stomach turn like really bad. It's really like you're just like, because like you can't imagine like being kidnapped and like like and having to be like someone's sex toy. I don't even know how to it's just so gross and graphic to me. Hey, but I was gonna tell you, I just had to do a training for my school. It was an hour-long training about human trafficking too, and it was explaining like it's pretty wild. Like most common is like people that they know, or like they'll get the girls on social media, like a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and then, hey, yeah, come over here, and and then they kidnap, and they kidnap them and stuff like that. And I was just like, it's just wild. Like it, us growing up, I grew up in my younger years in El Paso, right on the border. And we knew about kidnappings then when we were kids. Like, they kidnap kids and American kids and take them over the border to Mexico. But nowadays it's like really bad. Like it's blows my mind. Like it's just like, and then it's like, yeah, and then when they did that movie, and I thought the movie was good, like, but I didn't like a lot of the like there was parts in there that was kind of cheesy to me. Like every time he would do something, like some holy music would play, and I was just like, it make me. But the thing was, is like it was based on somebody that was actually really going in and rescuing kids, and that was getting down, And there's not too many people that are willing to do that, like
Didn't
and
that
it's
take
like,
like 6 years to get that movie to come out? That's how long they were trying to hold it back or something?
yeah. Well, and then they did all kinds of messed up stuff. I think they didn't want it in theaters, or they let it
Mm-hmm.
out of theaters right away. Like, like, and it was like I didn't understand, like, okay, if it wasn't a real thing, if it wasn't such an issue, if it wasn't that big of a deal, why were you guys trying to block it so much? Like why was the higher ups or whatever trying to block something? If it was just a movie, it's just a movie. It's not a documentary.
So it
But
isn't just that. And they say that tens of millions of people go through the prison or jail systems every year. And through that, some people slip through the cracks and disappear. And again, like I said, when the government can't find people to experiment on, they're going to get them. And allegedly, there have been disappearances from prisons, people who just disappear, vanish, just no trace.
hey, they brought
And
it up in the they brought it up in the debate a few times this last and we forgot to talk about that. But
yeah,
the vice president debate, 350,000 children, immigrants, are missing and unaccounted for. Where do they go? 350,000? Come on.
you know where they went. And then the thing
Yeah.
is that you found that guy that washed up on Plum Island, which we forgot to talk about, 6 foot tall, black male with long
Oh, and his
fingers who had
fingers were all
five
long.
holes in his brain or his skull,
Oh,
which made
yeah.
it seem like
Yeah.
he had invasive procedures done to his brain. He was on anti-seizure medicine and 2 other drugs that the police said there was no foul play that it looked like, but it did look like he had invasive brain surgery, and they couldn't find a cause of death. And he washed up on Plum Island, but he had mutations with his feet and his hands. And
Yeah,
there was
they said his
another
fingers
person.
were all long.
Hmm. So I'm just saying, these 2 people that they found near Plum Island that people speculate were experiments from there. Um, there's hypothetically, they could be people that are being experimented on, or people that got too close that, paid the
Right.
price. You know what I'm saying? And so
Oh, yeah. I think that
getting
happens a
into, before
lot.
we get into I don't want to talk too much about dumps because we're getting into that next one, but I do want to bring this up. So Moloch and the Bohemian Grove. allegedly, around the end of July or the beginning first 2 weeks of July is when the Bohemian Grove takes place, isn't it? So 2 weeks and leading up to that, you'll notice that there's a lot of children and people that disappear leading up to that month, allegedly.
Damn, really?
They do honoring to people there and sacrifices to this effigy
Hey,
of the Moloch entity, that giant owl deity.
well, that's the babies that they burn in front of that. And then they they do like there was a movie about it. I can't think of what it's called, but they like hunt them. So like they let the humans go run wild, and then those guys go and hunt them and stuff, and they have fun like that. And they said that they do like all kinds of crazy, like different torturing and all kinds of messed up, R-ing people and all kinds of wild stuff there, like. And what gets more wild about it is like these are like the leaders of the like CEOs of companies, like the higher ups, and yeah, and then they go in there and they do all this wild stuff.
So the reason why
Shout
they
out to
sacrifice,
shout out to Alex Jones for sneaking in
yeah,
there, getting some footage for us.
I was gonna bring up him, but with his recent case and stuff, I didn't want to draw too much attention to him. But not that I think he's wrong, but you see how they came down on him, and that's what happens when you say things with such certainty and without the evidence to back it. Even when you have the evidence, unfortunately, we live in a world that we don't control. So enter it at your own risk. But the reason why they sacrifice children to Moloch is that older forms of sacrifice sought only to offer a substitute victim to draw the wrath of God, usually a child, as in a biblical sacrifices to the Ammonite god Moloch. Sacrifice of this order is based on aggression and was often associated with worship of the dead. And he's a Canaanite deity associated in biblical sources with the practice of child sacrifice.
Jeez.
And Bible strongly condemns practices that are associated with Moloch, which are heavily implied to include child sacrifice.
Oh man. Hey, then it's kind of wild too. They don't who says it a lot too, but nobody like sticks up for the children, like
So I
like
did. I told you about it. If you go to my channel at 6GrimX of the Drill Bros on YouTube, there's in the I think it's esoteric guest spots, and you'll find in there the lost tapes of 6GrimX, and it's only what I could salvage of it. But we did a podcast where I basically talk about what the P dogs use as symbols to talk to each other to say when an area is ripe for the taking. And when I said those things, I got hit by YouTube with hate speech. They pulled the video down in frickin' 5 hours, and only what I had recorded for clips was I able to salvage. And it's only like maybe 40 minutes of the podcast, which was almost a 2.5 hour podcast that I talked more about the Black Eye Club and the Red Shoe Society and what that meant. And I got hit with hate speech over it. So, and the reason why I wanted to do it is because here in Colorado in Lakewood, I have seen a symbol for the El Boy,
hey, is it
lover.
the spiral one?
Yeah, and they have the butterfly and things like that, and that triangle one, and all of that. They're just symbols. You can look them up. They're on an FBI database. So I don't get why that's hate speech by saying that there are symbols out there. And because I've seen them in my own neck of the woods, I just wanted to raise the awareness on it, and I got hit with hate speech. So,
dude,
putting that out
that's
there.
so. Hey, that's so wild. Like, And hate speech too, man. They label everything hate speech anymore. Like you can't even express your opinion. Hate speech. I'm like, damn. I'll just have no
So
speech. Oh, that's what they want. That's what they want, huh? I just said it, fuckers. They want us to have no speech. Trying to. Hey, oh, speaking of that, in the debate, that was brought up too. That he's like, it should be a major concern that they're trying to censor everything and the censorship and the other guy, the Democrat, he was like he tried to avoid that subject right away, and then he brought it up again, Pence or Vance, or and he was
yeah,
like,
man.
yeah, yeah, he's like they're trying to take away our First Amendment. That should be a major concern for everybody with the censorship on these social media pages. And I was like,
So for those that aren't aware, be prepared to be awoke. But it was told to me when I was younger, and that really resonated with me, is that when your government steps in to say that they're protecting you, be prepared to lose more of your freedoms.
Hey, I remember learning about that saying when I was really like probably in my early 20s. I started reading, watching Alex Jones and reading David Icke books. But yeah, that's he said like everything's like, and it's so like, man, it gets so deep with that damn thing. But yeah, and they say we're here to protect you. They do that in the schools too. So they're doing all kinds of crazy stuff, like and they say, "Oh no, it's for your protection and stuff." And you're like, "What the fuck?" Like, it's just kind of wild. And then like, yeah, and then they use that all the time, like, "Oh no, 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 it's for your protection. We're trying to protect you from those bad words that people say on the internet because we need to protect you." It's like, no,
I'm
man, you're censoring us.
gonna say it. Who knows what's gonna happen? But we're getting into the territory of 1984 with what we're talking about. And for those that don't know, this is a book that people tried to ban many times. Book came out in
We should that
1949,
we should cover that one of these episodes. That'd be kind of fun, actually.
and
It'd probably be
basically
It'd probably be scary as fuck too. Like, oh fuck, we'll probably see all this everything going on.
what Doge is talking about, what I briefly touched on with losing our freedoms and rights, is a lot to do with what this book's about, honestly. And it almost caused people to do the same thing. There were book burnings held because of this book, and the book talks about that.
Hey,
And when they
wasn't
tried
he
to
a Mason
censor,
too?
I honestly don't know. Let me see.
Because I know, or who, or maybe I'm thinking of another one.
Dude, but
Albert
I
Pike.
found out something today that I was tripped out on, dude. I found out that Randall Carlson was a 32nd degree Freemason, and I'm like, what? And it makes
Uh,
sense because Randall Carlson is the most known person that knows the most about sacred geometry in the world. He's been on Joe Rogan a few times. He's also done a lot of stuff with can I think of Graham Hancock, and he's been on a lot of people's podcasts and stuff. He talks about like the 144,000 capstones under the Great Pyramid and all of these things, and he breaks down all of this geometry and math. It's just crazy. And when I found that out, my brother was telling me about this podcast where he talks about it. I told my brother it's funny because a lot of the things he talks about is shit you wouldn't know unless you knew Masonic knowledge.
yeah,
And
I think there's a lot of them, but like amongst us, but they just don't go around advertising it. Eh,
I don't know, I'm not seeing anything that says it yet, but I should look just up that. But so, anyways, when I talk to people at work about this stuff, only like I give breadcrumbs, more or less, because if people don't resonate with it, you can't really tell them because it's not going to be meant for them. But some of the things that I say, they're like, well, how come I'm not taught these things? Well, because you wouldn't be. That knowledge is not for the uninitiated. And to be an initiate, you have to seek this knowledge. This knowledge just isn't handed out and given freely. This is hidden knowledge for a reason. Number one reason is if you haven't done work to prepare. So you go through math then you go through algebra, then you go through geometry, then you go through algebra 2, then you go to your AP classes, correct? And so if you're doing normal religions, you'll get to that same knowledge. It just takes longer. The thing is so you're just doing the scales. And by the time you get to esoteric occult knowledge, you're in the AP classes. At that point, you understand what you're dealing with, or at least you should. And if you don't, you're more likely to use those things to harm others. And that is why it is hidden. It's not because people like us think this knowledge is we're too good to give it to you. No, it's not meant for you. If you're not
Yeah.
seeking it, it is not meant for you. And so I'm looking this up right now.
Look up who the author. Wait.
George Orwell is who I'm looking up as a Freemason, but I'm not seeing anything on here that says that he is.
Maybe I think it's someone else. I'll see. My phone just recorded that theory, so it'll pop up here with the AI, and I'll find out the meme or something later about it. Hey, that AI is getting pretty intelligent.
It is, and people try to argue the fact that it's not a complete AI, but I think it technically is. And
well, yeah, it's a baby right now. It still's got to grow,
well,
It's
there
like,
is real AI out there that is beyond what we're using. What we're using is
probably like a what, 100th. It's a very small percentage of what the real thing is.
to be honest, I fear that we might be giving birth to Ahriman. Ahriman is supposed to be created in the flesh in around our time. And Ahriman is basically connected to technology and how technology cuts us off from our higher spiritual centers. So Rudolf Steiner talked about it, and here in our age, in the age of the man of the 2000s, we were going to enter into the age of Ahriman, which was the age of technology. And if for those who know, and go out and look up Rudolf Steiner's prediction for the 20th century man. And then I sent it to my brother, and he's like, dude, it's a speech from like 1920, I believe, and how accurate it is for a man who's long gone, who basically said what was going to happen, and it has happened. Everything he says in his speech. The most advanced Rosicrucian to ever teach publicly. And if you listen to it, you'll understand what I mean.
Hey, it's all predictive programming.
And for those that made it this far, as soon as this video comes up, hopefully I'll remember, but I'll try to post the link to the video in the comments.
Yeah. Was it Albert Pike? What was he? Wasn't he a Freemason?
I believe he was, but the one who is
He
the
wrote a
most
book too, right?
associated is what's his face? Francis Bacon. Albert Pike is Freemason.
And he wrote books, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's who I thought it was. Who knows? Who knows what goes on? Man. But hey, so you think well, Plum Island's probably the only island that we've heard of. But there's probably more islands like that, huh? Where they experiment and do weird stuff on. Hey, what if
Dude, what
Jeffrey's...
do you think Epstein Island was? Or hopefully I can say that. But anyway.
You think it was like they were doing like weird experiments like that? Or you think... I think they're just doing like straight up satanic madness. I seen this video. It was on Facebook like for a quick second. But it was like supposedly Jeffrey Epstein. There was a girl like this, all like strapped down on the out in the island on the ground, tied down, and he was just had a magnifying glass, and he was burning different parts of her body, and he was just torturing her like that. And it was a video showing him. It never showed his face, but I mean, it looked just like him. It had the back of him, and I was just like, dude, that's some sick shit, man. That group was pretty wild. It was like it was showing all kinds of. It had those two kids on there too. I don't know if you ever heard those two kids talking about the satanic church and how they would eat people and stuff and babies. And these like two little white kids. It's pretty graphic, but they had that video on there too, and it was like, whoa, what the? So I don't know.
Kind of what you're talking about leans more towards things like of the occult group, the O9A, which is the most murderous satanic occult group out there. Not saying that it's not true or that it's not a possibility, but I will say this. All magic, real magic, comes at a cost. No matter what you do, there's energy that has to take place that is taken and given. But to be given, it has to be taken. And I just want to say, like, I was talking to someone today and they were talking to me about the egg ritual and stuff. And I told them, what's relevant about that, right? It's a life for a life, basically. You know what I mean? You are pulling negative out of you to put into this egg, but you're basically taking a living thing and now it can be a living thing. Everything comes at a cost.
Yeah. So what did so like supposedly what was it, Disney bought up the Jeffrey Epstein Island, so the show must go on, I guess.
There's a lot of allegations against Disney. There's a lot of things associated to them.
Hey, there was a an author that came on to this radio show. It's a lot to explain, but anyways, I was like affiliated with this radio show with my buddy. But they wrote a book about all the allegations against Disney, and it was a thick book, dude. Like, and it was just up to the 2000s, from the 80s to the 2000s or something like that. Cases of all kinds of sick stuff, man.
Oh, I'm sure.
But yeah, look at Plum Island. These islands, man. I ain't gonna go. I ain't visiting the Bahamas or Hawaii. I'm staying away from all these islands. Hey,
I
doesn't
can't
Hawaii
let
have a
that
base
scare
like?
you.
Huh?
You can't let that scare you.
Hey, doesn't Hawaii has a base like that too, supposedly, right? Where
They
and then
may.
isn't
There is
then
one
isn't
though in Antarctica.
I believe, well, there's also the Black Pyramid over there too. I believe there's a lot of wild stuff. Or no,
The Black
I'm
Pyramid's
thinking
in
of Alaska.
Alaska,
Yeah.
and there is a pyramid in Antarctica, but the Black Pyramid is in Alaska.
Yeah, I got it confused. But yeah, there's probably stuff up in Alaska too. You know what I'm saying? I think they're all over. Like, like I was saying, like DIA.
Well, dude, I thought, didn't that Black Pyramid have something to do with the Montauk Project? And when I'm talking about that Al Bielek guy and the whole time travel and all that shit that I just kind of
Yeah,
briefly mentioned, I could swear that
I'm
that
I'm
story had something to do with the Black Pyramid.
I'm pretty sure I that kind of sounds like about right too. We'll have to refresh ourselves on that one.
So
We'll pull back into it. uh that Yeah, man. Hey, imagine stumbling across one of those places on accident, like, oh fuck.
you wouldn't,
These people.
because they say like Plum Island, if an animal comes up on shore, they kill it immediately. And if you try to go up on a boat, then you'll be greeted with armed military who will detract you from going there. But there are tours that they still hold regularly, and it's part of the government trying to show people that it's very controlled, but at the same time that we're not hiding anything. but
Oh,
really it's
heck
hidden in
no.
plain sight. And then when you go through these tours, apparently you're followed by said men in black that follow you the entire tour. The tour is you do not veer off the path, you only stay on the path, you do not leave the path for any reason whatsoever. And when you enter and exit the facility, they give you that bath like they do their employees and make you wear the suits when you walk through there. You know, when they give you those disease type baths where they hose your ass down.
Oh, heck no. I would not be going on that tour.
So,
I went on a whiskey tour. That was pretty cool.
so
They're like, right here, we crossbreeded this some weird
hey,
ass animal.
I think that was good, and it's a good segue to kind of talk about what you guys, if you stay tuned for the next episode, some of the things that you might get to hear about are things like Denver International Airport and Blucifer and
Yes.
other deep underground military bases and the Walmarts and the FEMA camps.
Also, the Wuhan, because that's a funny thing too. Before we wrap it all up, like we can't forget about that lab leak, or supposed allegedly, but actually
Yeah.
it's been proven that it has been. So like, look at what that did to the whole entire world. It shut us down, set us back 2 years. Like, these guys are doing these crazy experiments in these laboratories and stuff, and like the stuff that could get just, I mean, what are they trying to do? Come up with some stuff I mean, this is all like depopulation if you really want to boil down to it. And it, they're gonna keep doing this stuff. And it's pretty wild. But yeah, this next one we want to get into. There's also Dulce, New Mexico. I want to cover and talk about. DIA. I always been a fan of the DIA because there's a lot of symbolism inside the airport.
Yep.
I've
They've
decoded a lot of
removed it though.
all the paintings. We
Yeah, they
know
got
about
rid of
that
them.
stuff. That's crazy.
So they put other things there, but we could get into that in the next one. But it's lies mixed with truth, so that way that you associate the truth with lies. Typical
Yeah.
military tactics.
I believe too over here. We have Los Lunas and White Sands, and White Sands Missile Range. Los Lunas is supposedly where they created the atomic bomb, with Oppenheimer, and they put some stuff in that movie that was kind of interesting. Some little things that people didn't kind of catch on right away. But he said we got to go more off the books and more underground. So that's what we are going to get into this next episode, is the DUMBs, deep underground military bases. And I believe they are all over. Oh, and there's also was it NORAD up in
Yeah,
Colorado? Yeah,
yeah,
in the mountain. Yeah, so
and
I'm
not the only one. There's many others, and I just want to put it out there since you brought it up is that with the Oppenheimer thing and then the nuclear bomb, that's where man finally harnessed the power of the Merkaba, which Thoth warned about, and us having the ability to destroy realities.
Yeah, have you watched that movie?
I want to see it.
It's 3 hours long. It's kind of boring, but it's interesting, like but and then like just to show like how his brain is, like how he's like you're like, wow. But like I said, he says a few things in that movie that you're because I always swear I just drove by that. I just drove through Las Lunas last night. I was just up there, up in Albuquerque and stuff. But it's kind of weird when you go over there. They have like massive solar panel fields. Like you're like, well, what are they powering over here? Because the Las Lunas town's extremely small. Like it's not.
And you also got Roswell there.
Oh yeah, that's another one too. Yeah, but so yeah, it's gonna be really fun this next episode. And that's just a few that we know off our head. I'm sure once we research a little, we'll be like, wow. I think the whole, see, this is how crazy I am. I think we just live on the outskirts, and the whole inside of the underground is a whole nother world. Like Mario Brothers. You ever seen that movie?
Yeah.
Hey, they say that's why they made that movie. the reptilians on the center of the earth.
With the Goombas.
Yeah. Ah, dude, the Goombas were tight, man.
Code. But yeah,
Right.
so guys, stay tuned on the same YouTube channel for What's That Called at the same What's That Called hour.
Yep. Same What's That Called universe. And we are out. That's another episode of What's That Called? So Doja, Six Grim, and we are out. You guys be safe. Those people in the hurricane, you know, my heart goes out to you guys. You guys, you know, hopefully make it through it. It's been kind of wild on all the floods and the deaths already. It's like, man. But yeah,
Dude, it's crazy.
Right.
I mean, it really is. The things that are going on.
I was thinking about the other day, it was just like, then we deployed all those ships over there for Israel and the Iran thing or whatever. I'm like, it's a really crazy time we live in these times. You know, there's so much going on. And that's just on the surface. You know what I mean? It's like, but everybody be safe, and we out.
Weaponsradio.com.
The Mayan calendar seems to say that the world will end in 2012.
Look, there's so many homicides, genocides, suicides. So many innocent and young die, and you wonder why. We live in a psychedelic, psychotic earth. I've always understood curse from birth. Children's innocent blood, the demon stirs. How much is your soul worth? Don't sell it to this matrix. Get out of this constant cycle of hatred. Don't ever underestimate the forsaken. Millions of lives daily and nightly are taken. It's about time for that rude awakening. Correcting what the fuck is going on. Look at the world, it's all wrong. Humans turned into hypnotized zombies, brains gone. Society, a bunch of governmental lab rats. Watch me say some of the facts. The world's controlled by secret societies. Freemasons, Rockefellers, Bilderberg, and you can't forget the Illuminati. These are just a few of them, hardly. Does the evilness cease to stop? Don't be taking no vaccine shots. The government got millions of different ways to kill us from inside slowly every day. Fluoride in the water. They look at us as lab rats who slaughter. Satanic will rape their own daughter. Society don't even see half the things they do to you. There's so many that are brainwashed fools. Expose the foes, brainwashing the domes. Spirit inside, never alone. Be original, not a clone. Expose the foes, brainwashing the domes. Spirit inside, never alone. Be original, not a clone. Marry, kill, kill, kill. Is burning the fuck out of countries, taking lives, making millions of families go hungry for selfish reasons, for oil, drilling, bloody money. Chemicals breathing in, soldiers coming back dummies. Let's not forget about the poor, thorough families. Mass murdering and bloodbaths is going on for centuries. Just take a good look at history, and maybe don't understand some of the mysteries. The truth will set you free, that's the real dealie. The way they control society is really fucking silly. America's youth goes overseas to die for oil drilling. Even if the soldiers make it back, the chaos solely go fuck them brains ain't intact. So many of the war heroes can't function in society. There's always in a war state mind mentality. Always wanna fuck up, fight, and start battling. It was easier for them to take lives. It's harder for them to stay loyal, not be wise. They start to panic in a crowded place. Every time they go out war, boots they got a lace. Man, they turn into brainwashed zombies. Damn, what happened to homies we used to be? HDTV, it's brainwashed society. Look at all the brains that are mounting. America is the last to lend a hand of helping. Expose the foes, brainwashing the dome. Spirit inside, never alone. Be original, not a clone. Expose the foes, brainwashing the domes. Spirit inside, never alone. Be original, not a clone. It's time to hold court. in the streets. They're trying to take away our right to bear heat. Freedom of speech, poisoning what we eat. Wake up your spirit, you need to seek. Before all the human beings are defeated, I'm always standing on my own 2 feet. Illuminati's always trying to knock us on our ass. In the school books line up about the past. FBI, CIA is trying to invade our privacies. Words like these are trying to be silencing. Violence indeed is fed through the TV, hypnotizing by false fake image realities. Presidents at Bohemian Grove enjoying burning children. Governments like butt sex, anal drilling. Around the globe, kids are stealing to create brainwashed zombies with no feelings. They lock us up for bogus crimes, and through their TV, they brainwash millions of minds. They're trying to control the population, microchip everyone in all the nations. NWO ripping resources around the globe. Faux show, many get killed for this bloody dough. They want us to stay in this black hole, but they can never hold the flow of our soul. Even when they try to use witchcraft to control. Freemason started up America. These are some of the foes you should know of. Shove the nonsense to the side. We forever fly, we never die. This is what society tries to deny. The truth is inside, quit asking why.
Why we all die, why we all fry, why we all die, why we all fry, why we all die.
Expose the foes, brainwashing the domes. Spirit inside, never alone. Be original, not a clone. Expose the foes,